Hello, beautiful stars. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am Astar and welcome to Sourcelight Star. I am very happy that Spirit has led you here to this video. And in this video, we are gonna be channeling messages from Spirit by looking at the imagery of these books. And if you know my channel, you know I like to challenge myself to use different divination tools, because the more we experiment with different divination tools, the easier we can train our intuition. So it is really about challenging us to use different methods and to really rely on the first intuitive thing that comes up. And intuitively, I feel that these readings are going to be looking into your past lifetimes, although I'm going to keep it open, so I really allow Spirit to channel through me and to relay any message that wants to come through right now. So if it comes up, the intention of channeling your past lifetimes is about helping you to gain clarity of what's going on right now. And that's the intention, and let's see where this is going. So I invite Spirit to channel through me, and I allow Spirit to choose which one of the books we are using first. So let's see what's coming up. Okay, we are starting with the Historia dell'arte. So it's a book about art history. And trust that I'm closing my eyes as I am shuffling through the pages. Thank you so much, dearest Spirit, for channeling any messages through me. There we go. Okay. And before I get in, I'm gonna be shuffling this book here as well. It's an experiment, so let's see what happens. And also, in case I need it, I'm gonna be using these cards as well. So, just in case. Let's see. Messages from Spirit. All right. Okay, interesting imagery. Let's see if you can see. So the first image we have is this one here. It's a book by René Magritte. He's a Belgian painter. And then we have this one here, which is like a temple, but yes, okay. So the first thing I'm noticing in this image here is that there is this disruption going through the temple. So when we talk about the temple, this is basically our physical body. So our soul is housed in the temple of our physical body. And everywhere where there is, like in ancient scriptures, for example, when we mention the temple or the pyramid or the mountain, this is actually a symbol for our body. So when we say we climb the steps of the pyramid, or we climb the mountain, or the ladder of the body, this is basically this analogy of reaching the alchemical gold, of reaching enlightened consciousness. And so since here we have a depiction of a temple, and there is this line, and I'm hearing the word fault line that is going through, there is almost this energy of ancestral karma or ancestral pains that almost have brought a fracture into the temple. So as souls, we inherently know of our divine nature. We inherently know that basically we are the spirit that is enclosed in the house or the temple of the flesh, of the form. So if everything was great, if there was no fault line, we would know that we are souls having a human experience, and that we are basically infinite beings that are temporarily inside this finite structure, which is again our physical body or the temple. But since this is coming up, there is a message about almost this fracture with consciousness, or this fracture with this knowingness that has had an impact in your life right now. Because again, since the intention is to be able to relate it back to the present moment, it is important to know that the beliefs of our ancestors, they still have an influence about how we think of ourselves. Because our ancestors, they have created the structure, all the structures, all the systems on this planet. And if the systems and the structures that they built followed a state of consciousness where, it's almost this distortion. If the structures and systems that our ancestors built are based on distortions about the nature of reality and about the nature of who we are, then obviously it still has an influence on us today. And it's very interesting because the first thing that came up when I looked at this image here, it's this image of almost anger, because fire is coming out of this figure, which is reminding me of like a cannon. So a cannon, it's coming fire out of the cannon. And basically a lot of the anger that we might be feeling, like frustration or anger or a sense of being held back in some way, this is actually the beliefs of our ancestors. The beliefs that we are not eternal. So if we are connected to our soul's nature, then we are living in flow, and then life flows basically. But if we are going against the flow, if we don't see ourselves as infinite souls, then it's actually, we are going against our nature in a way. And if we go against our nature, then we are not in flow with the flow. And if we're not in flow, this is actually creating like blockages. And this repressed energy, this is the energy of anger. So we are angry, or we feel a sense of anger or frustration when our natural flow is held back in a way. And this outburst of anger, like when we feel angry or when we feel like shouting or crying, this is actually the release of all these pent-up emotions, of all these repressed feelings of our ancestors, which felt disempowered or felt like they didn't embody their truest nature, their soul nature. So some of you are definitely having an emotional release right now by the time that you're tuning in, or this period. And the message coming through, it's actually about knowing that this is crucial, this part, like releasing this anger or going through this experience of maybe feeling angry or frustrated, because this is then what's gonna give you a new stability, a new house, a new temple basically. And it's so beautiful because the figure holds 3 houses, so 3 structures. And so it's really about, yes, you can be more than just one thing. It's about exploring our options, exploring our possibilities. So definitely what we are healing collectively in this lifetime is all the lives of our ancestors where they basically didn't have a choice, where they had to follow the status quo. They had to do maybe a job that they didn't enjoy, because this is how the systems were built up, like everyone following the family's business and just working there, or everyone following a certain belief system. Like this is what brings in a fracture with our authentic being. Like the authentic nature of the soul is like being this canon of expressing our fire, our creative fire in a healthy way, like experimenting and exploring and seeing the different options. But then obviously if this creative fire, this natural impulse of creativity was being held back for so long, it is basically like a fire that is like boiling inside of us. And if it's pent up, this is what creates then anger. So definitely there is a lot of Rajas energy. So Rajas energy is this energy of like hot and heavy, like hot and spicy. Like definitely I'm feeling some of you have this inner fire that wants to be released. And the way we release it is, yes, maybe being angry, but not at someone else, like you can shout in your pillow or release the anger in a healthy way. But once, let's say, this anger has been released, we can then use the creative expression of that energy and use this fire to create. So it's almost, again, this message of being held back for a long time, but using this anger and the frustration of being held back as a fuel to charge our manifestations and our creations. And it's really, again, about exploring our potential. And I'm feeling called to reshuffle the books to continue the message. So let's see where this is going. I'm gonna be closing my eyes. Okay. This is the next image we have. So let's see what else is coming through. I'm closing my eyes. Okay. So we have this one here. And I'm actually being told to also pull some tarot cards to complete the message. What do we need to know? What do we need to hear? Any messages from Spirit? Let's see. Okay. 1, 2, and 3. Ooh, again. Oh, beautiful. We have beautiful synchronicities. So we have this notion of fire again. And the first thing that comes up in connection with that is actually looking at this sphere. So the sphere is always a symbol of unity consciousness. It's a symbol of our soul. This is basically like the highest sphere. Like sphere is this image of perfection, of wholeness, of like totality. And it is very interesting that the sphere is basically behind this figure. And there is very much this notion of, again, there are many colored images in this book, but the images that appeared, they are black and white. So there is something about like exploring the black and white, experiencing the light and the dark, experiencing the duality, this illusion of separation. But all of this is basically here to find our way back to the oneness. And even if in this experience we might not directly look at our divine nature, even if, let's say, in this human experience, this divine nature is, let's say, secondary or is not as present as it is in the higher realms, it is still about finding our way to the oneness. So again, this game of experiencing duality, this human experiment basically, is about, yes, having the experience of the flesh, having the experience of this duality, and embracing everything that entails, literally everything. And then by fully embracing that separation, we find our way back to the oneness. Like what this is talking about, it's basically, it's talking about the spiritual path. Because here we have the prince and then the queen. Like this is almost this progression of, again, going somewhere, looking for something. So for example, we might go on a journey of finding something. We go on a journey because we want to find inspiration. We want to find the truth. We want to learn something. And that urge of wanting to experience something is the urge of the soul to leave the higher realms and to incarnate in a human vessel. This is this journey of the way. So the path, the way, the Tao, Tao Ru. Tao is the infinite source, the infinite sphere, the infinite flame, the infinite fire, goes into the Ru, Ru, which is the female portal, the portal of creation, Tao Ru. So when Tao enters the Ru, the portal of creation, then it is Tauru, Taurus or the Taurus. And creation has the shape of the Taurus. So basically when the infinite eternal soul enters the torus, then we have this experience of creation, the experience of duality, the experience of the above and the below, of spirit and matter, of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And again, it is only through this polarity that we can actually experience something. Like for any experience, for anything to be created and experienced, there needs to be this duality. But then again, it is about finding our way back to the oneness while being in the duality, or almost knowing that we are the one while experiencing the polarity of creation, the polarity of black and white. But then again, I'm being made to feel there is something more that wants to come through about that specifically, because again, I'm being made to feel something is hidden, like the light is in the dark, something is in the shadows, and I'm being made to feel that, yes, there is a key when it comes to your spiritual progress, your spiritual evolution. So let's see what else wants to come through. Okay, black and white again. Very funny, okay. And then let's see what we have here. Okay. This says sabre and cheval. I am pretty sure that cheval means cavallo, like horse. And it's very interesting because, yes, there is a horse coming out of the point. And the point is the top of the pyramid. The point is the sphere. The point is unity consciousness. The point is oneness or love. And it's so funny because a horse comes out of the point. Oh, beautiful. I love your spirit. It's a beautiful way of explaining this. So out of the point of oneness comes the horse. And the notion of the horse is this idea of the four limbs, also the four elements. That's why the base of the pyramid has the 4 points and the 5th in the middle, which is the top of the pyramid. Again, spirit, ether, love, oneness, consciousness, awareness. This is the center, and it is being expressed. What comes out of that center is the four elements. And the 4 is also this notion about squaring the circle or circling the square. This is the process of alchemy. So squaring the circle actually means understanding spirit, understanding the oneness. Because what we do is we are putting a square around the circle being unity, being the center, being oneness consciousness. And the 4 is the experience of time and space, the experience of the universe. That's why we say the universe expands in the 4 heavenly directions, but also the material universe is created through the 4 elements and the 5th in the middle. So basically, again, it's this notion of finding our way back to the oneness by exploring the square. And the square is the physical realm, the realm of matter. And now I'm seeing the image of the cube. Oh my God, and it makes so much sense, obviously. And looking here at this image, there is actually this message about the cube. So basically the cube is the 4th dimension. The 4th dimension is basically thoughts, or the experience of our thoughts, or the experience of time and space, the experiencing of, the experiencing of spirit, actually, like understanding spirit. Or also, again, with the 4 corners, I'm being taken to the 5 senses. So there are 5 senses of the physical body, which are connected to the 5 sense organs, also connected to the 4 elements. So basically the 4, the number 4, the square or the cube, it's basically allowing us to have the experience of creation, experiencing space and time, time and space. Space-time really, because time and space, they go together, they can't really be separated. And these 4 pillars, basically, are the 4 pillars that hold up the heavens. And the 4 pillars holding up the heavens are again the 4 elements and the 4 winds, the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 spirits, the 4 cardinal spirits holding up the dome of the sky, holding up the sphere, like this is the vault of heaven, the firmament. Firmament, ment is mental, so again with this mental energy, it's like the experience of creation, holding up the dome of heaven. And now I'm feeling called to shuffle again. Let's see what else comes up. All right, no, actually, you know what? I'm gonna shuffle again because let's manifest a colored image. I'm closing my eyes, but we want a colored image. There we go. Ooh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, love it. Wait, let me shuffle this one here as well. So let's see what else we have. I'm closing my eyes. This one. All right. Oh, beautiful. Okay, okay. Yes, yes, yes. So here we have the sphere again. And there is again this notion of, beautiful. Okay, so the sphere is always a sphere. So let's say oneness is always oneness. Love is always love. Source is always the source. And that remains untouched. So even if we add something to that, like what I want to say is here that the divine is it cannot be changed. So the essence of the divine, the essence of source, the essence of the sphere always remains a sphere. So it doesn't matter if it's like very, very small or very, very big, it's always the sphere. And its essence cannot really be changed. But there is something about understanding that the environment around it that can change. Because the very first image that we saw was the image of the temple. And again, our soul at the core, the sphere at the core, remains untouched. But what can change is again the things around. So depending on what is around our soul, and in this case our body, our environment, our experience of the space-time of creation, that can vary. So the multiplicity, the myriad of forms, everything that we can experience and sense and touch and create, that's basically existing in a realm almost outside of the untouched soul. So what the message coming through here is, no matter what we experience in the space-time of creation, no matter what is going on in the outside world, in our experience in the universe, it can never touch the eternity of our essence. Pardon me, my phone stopped recording, but here I am. So what I was going to say, yes, so the nature of our soul remains untouched, no matter what is going on in the realm of space-time. And I love it so much, really, it's so beautiful, the synchronicities. Here we have the apples. I have to show it to you closer so you can see. Here we have the apples with a mask. And I love it so much because that's exactly what I was talking about. So the apple, that's basically the Taurus of creation. The apple, the fruit, the golden fruit, that's basically space-time. So the universe, the omniverse, or creation basically. And yes, while we are in creation, we can have an infinite amount of masks. And these masks, they are basically masking, oh my God, I love it! I just noticed now, like the synchronicities, it's amazing. And the spiritual imagery in René Magritte's art, really amazing also. So when we enter creation as the infinite soul, when we enter the duality of creation, the duality of space-time, of the above and the below, of the masculine and the feminine, of spirit and matter, then it is almost like wearing a mask. And again, we can have an infinite amount of masks. We can have an infinite amount of lifetimes. One lifetime as a worm, the other lifetime as a human, the other lifetime as a multidimensional light being. But doesn't matter which being, which realm, which dimension, our essence, our soul, like our core, remains the same. And this is really this analogy of, again, entering the portal, entering Ru, which is the creative portal from the undifferentiated into the differentiated, from the unmanifest to the manifest, from the transcendental realm beyond creation into the realm of space-time in creation. The portal between the two is actually the tree of life. It's the Taurus, it's Taurus, because the tree of life creates the apple, creates the golden fruit, creates again this force field, like the Taurus is the force field of the positive and the negative, of the masculine and the feminine, of the above and the below. And so if the eternal spirit, the eternal soul, enters the Ru, the birthing portal, and goes into creation, it is again almost like wearing a mask. But then again, if we open up the tree, so beautiful, like in this image, if we open up the tree and get to the core of things, we understand that at our core, we are source. At our core, we are already healed. At our core, we are already divine. Like we already are there. And it doesn't matter which mask we choose to experience, it doesn't matter which lens we use to look at the world. Our essence stays the same. So it's really this message of detaching ourselves from what's happening in our life a little bit and getting back to the roots, getting back to the core. And when I say getting back to the roots, it's also getting back to the roots of the tree, understanding the tree, because the roots, the foundation, relating it back to the first imagery, this imagery of the temple, the house, the rock, the stone, the mountain, the pyramid, that's our foundation. Again, the fifth point in the middle, that is resting on the foundation of the four. The sphere that is resting on the foundation of the square, of the four elements, the four heavenly directions. Like, yes, there needs to be the Taurus of creation. There needs to be this experience of perceived duality in order to, experience anything again. Because if the sphere is always there, being the sphere, then it is always one. It knows everything, it is everything, it is all encompassing, all containing, all knowing, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. It's everything. There is nothing outside of one, because one is one. What else is there than one? But again, in order to have this experience, the one has to split into two, and as soon as it splits into two, we have the three, because the one splitting into two, the sphere of source, the oneness splitting into yin and yang, feminine and masculine, above and below, is already the number three, because it's the one experiencing the two. It's the central point in the middle and experiencing the beginning and the end, the life and the death. But again, the message here, it's about getting back to the core. Understanding that while we are in creation, while we are wearing the mask, we are still the core. And this is then how we can experience this life or experience this experience of space-time in a much smoother way. Because this is very much how it relates back to the first image, the image of the temple. This fault line, relating it back also to your past lifetimes, how the whole message completes itself. This fracture in consciousness, this fault line, this distortion that crept in to our ancestry, this is again this distorted way of looking at ourselves and at life. And this is very much this ego-based perception, which is based on fear. Fear is basically, yes, being trapped inside the ego, being trapped almost within the apple, or feeling trapped within creation. But that's not the purpose of creation, because the purpose of creation is for the sphere to experience itself. to have an experience, to play, to wear different masks. So it's really Source, Creator, infinite oneness, consciousness, unity, love, wants to play role plays, and then they create the omniverse of creation to create this perceived duality, this perceived separation, and that's basically the purpose of it. So it's really, again, this message of detaching ourselves from the pains of perceived separation, detaching ourselves from anything that goes on in creation, because the purpose of anything that happens is, again, for us to find our way back to the core. But then in the end of the day, we are the core all along. Like, we have been the core when we started the journey, and we have been the core when we end up. Like, we are the core at the base of the mountain, and we are the core all the way when we have reached the top of the mountain. Like, again, the eternal nature of our soul is unchanging. So I really love it how the whole message completes itself and how we close the circle. It's really also this idea of the first few images that came up in this book, they were black and white, because they really, like, there is a lot of beautiful artworks, beautiful imagery, and all the images that came up were really small and gray. So I was like, oh, I don't like that. So I shuffled again, and what came out is like, boom, the Empress, pregnant with beauty, pregnant with like this hearty energy, and like colorful and rich. And this is actually a very famous painting, so this is really abundance, richness. So the message coming through here, if we see something that we don't like, we are allowed to change it. So we are not doomed to follow the path that our ancestors laid before us. If some foundation is faulty, like the first image where there is this rapture, we are allowed to change it. We don't need to keep on following that same faulty path. We can say, no, I don't like this, let's change it, let's do it differently. Let's bring in a reality that is more colorful, more fruitful, and allows us to be more heart-centered. So really all these small images, this black and white, it's this idea of not really being allowed to explore our fullest potential. But then again, this is the pain of our ancestors. Right now, in this lifetime, we have the free way, like we are free to explore our fullness. We are free to explore the richness of the universe. And again, I see here the Divine Mother in this figure, like she's pregnant with the apple. Like she actually is the apple, like the apple of Eve. There is this connotation that the apple is something forbidden, like the forbidden fruit. We cannot really, it's like almost, this distortion is almost, the distortion, the rapture in consciousness was this idea that exploring our potential and exploring our divine nature is something evil. And that's why there was this long limitation of holding ourselves back from embodying our true nature. And that's why there was this anger energy, like this release of being held back for such a long time. And again, if you experience any blockages or anger or frustration, know that what you are doing is basically healing ancestral karma. But then once it's healed, once it's done, once we consciously decide to change the pattern, once we consciously decide that I don't longer want to have these small black and white images, I don't want to longer have this painful, boring life, I want to change things up. I want more color, I want more abundance, I want more love, I want more juiciness. We're allowed to do that. And this is how we change it. And again, we are allowed to have an abundant life. We're allowed to explore our potential. And then again, the way we heal our ancestry and the way we bring all of this full circle is basically doing exactly the things which our ancestors were kind of held back from doing. So one of the things is embodying our divine nature without being persecuted, for example. Or speaking our truth without fearing to be silenced or censored. Or living life like we really want to, not like society tells us. Like we're allowed to change the system. We're allowed to reshuffle the cards if we don't like what we see. We're not doomed to, let's say, our fate. we can rewrite it. We can rewrite the patterning, we can rewrite the coding, and it happens by our intention. So when we set the intention to create a new reality, the universe is already delivering, like she is about to deliver, like for good, like she is pregnant, like to the top. It's like almost about to be birthed into creation, like it's this energy of enough is enough, like this bomb, this figure with the fire at the beginning exploding. It's time for allowing our most authentic self to be expressed without limitations, without any limiting beliefs, and then at the same time knowing that if you experience limiting beliefs or limitations, it's the energy of our ancestors, and we are allowed to let go of these limitations. And only because you might experience limitations right now in this present moment doesn't mean that you cannot have a fruitful, happy life. Because again, in order to get to the fruitful, happy life, where the Divine Mother is giving birth to all the magic and all the beauty and all the authentic expression and all the authentic relationships and all the love and the authenticity, before that can happen, we first need to reshuffle the cards. We first need to repattern and to change the narrative, basically. And again, we are allowed to do that. And not only allowed to, we are meant to. Coming back to this idea, we are here to explore our potential. We are here to wear different masks and not wear the masks that our society is giving us. So when we come into this realm, we are being given a mask. We're being given an identity. Here you are, this is your name, this is your nationality, this is your gender, this is your role, this is your blah, blah, blah. But we're allowed to say like, no, I don't like this mask, I'm using a different one. Again, we can change the system and we are not doomed to live out the karma of our ancestors. Yes, we first need to heal it and purge it out and experience it as our own. But then once we reshuffle the cards, once we change the narrative, we can have a completely different experience. And it's really this energy of fruitfulness, of like love. And now last message to complete the whole picture. I'm being taken to the dog here. So the last message is about loyalty, being loyal to our heart, being loyal to our visions also, like this idea of pregnancy, like allowing the sphere to be birthed as a sphere, allowing ourselves to embody our higher self while being in the torus of creation, allowing ourselves again to be happy, even if we experience this perceived separation from source, because in the end of the day we're never really separated. So it is really, really this message about it is safe to trust our heart. It is safe to trust source and the divine and our higher self. And when we are loyal to source, when we are loyal to our most authentic self, then she's gonna deliver. Then like I'm really seeing this dam breaking, the portal opening, and the mother delivering the goodness, the goodness that is really, yeah, it's this heart-centered energy, what I'm feeling, like this heart-centered energy wants to be birthed now. And it's on the other side of releasing all the ancestral karma, which is not even ours. Literally, all the limiting beliefs, they're not even your own. It's really the echoes of the ancestors. And again, we're allowed to change the narrative. And here we are, writing a new story for humanity, a story of fruitfulness, of abundance. And this is exactly what the Taurus actually is. Taurus, the archetype of Taurus, is the cow of plenty, the horn of plenty. The two horns of the cow is the vessel of creation. And the vessel of creation is the divine feminine and the divine masculine, creating the sphere that goes inside the vessel, the sphere that goes inside the tree, the seed that goes inside the womb. The purpose of it is like juiciness and fruitfulness and happiness and gorgeous experiences, and we're meant to have fun exploring creation. It is not meant to be a painful experience. Of course, there is always lessons to be learned in the pain, but it's not about the pain. It's again this idea of detaching ourselves from what is happening and understanding that everything that is happening in our life is actually here to help us. understand that we have been the core all along, understanding that we are source all along, but then again, we are source at the beginning of the journey and we are source at the end of the journey. So it's really not about like having any results or forcing ourselves to get anywhere or to force ourselves to reach any state of consciousness or anything. That's not the point of it, because the destination is the starting point and the starting point is the destination. So it's really, again, this message of playfulness, of having fun and not taking things too seriously. And when we adopt this playful perspective of our soul, basically, like our inner child and our higher self and this most authentic self, the nature of that is playfulness. Playing and creating while being detached to the outcome. Playing and creating without thinking about time, without thinking like really playing like a child, because they don't really care about what's going to happen after. When they are in the play, then it's really this flow. And the Divine Mother specifically is coming through to help us bring more flow into our life. And also this idea of cleansing the mirror, cleansing our mask, cleansing our lens, so that we can see things more clearly and so that we can see that the foundation of the whole universe is actually perfectly balanced. So even if there is the imbalance of dark and white, of black and white, of this and that, it is still perfectly balanced. It is still following a perfect order, even if we might experience it as chaos or pain or suffering. Like even the suffering and let's say the not so nice experiences, they are still following the divine order, which the underlying order of that is love, is unity, is oneness. And this is the message for today. I really hope you resonated with the messages. Please let me know if you did. And I really love to be spontaneous and to see where this is taking us. So this is my invitation for you today, also to be playful. Try something that you have never tried before and allow yourself to do it from a very detached space, without being attached to the outcome, and really inviting in also your soul, your higher self, and really seeing what the soul can create without the interference of the ego. That's my invitation for you today. Let's see where the exploration takes you. So thank you so much again for tuning in again. I'm wishing you a very beautiful time whenever you are tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye, much love.